Whenever things got rough, I always remember what my father used to say.
Running a business does test a man, my son. There are ups and downs, glorious highs, and sometimes a low that leaves you feeling defeated.
The character of a man and the character of a business are not very different, are they?
Yes. But when the chips are down, we must stand up, dust ourselves off, and motor on.
Volatility. It's a funny thing. It makes you question yourself and wonder if you've made all the right decisions.
Sure, you can question some of your decisions, but stay steadfast on your goals.
Dad always said, there are no shortcuts and no quick profits.
There are no free lunches, are there? There is only one
right way.
At PPFAS, we think like Rahul and his father. That volatility is a fact of running a business. And buying equity shares is like owning a part of that business. We use value investing principles to manage your money. This means we invest in the right businesses at reasonable prices and for a longer term.
PPFAS Mutual Fund. There's only one right way.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Good evening and welcome. We have a special guest this evening. We have Rishi here, and reason why this is special is that his colleague Saurabh and Rishi, two of them and I guess some more, organize all these wonderful talks at Google where they invite various well-known investors to address Google, and not only Google benefits from those talks or Google employees, but those are recorded and put up on YouTube. So if you haven't seen those, I would urge you to take a look. It's quite interesting. So getting into today's topic, till about 6 months back, my mental construct was this. As a kid, I had seen these solar powered calculators. Windmills have been around for 2000 years, known to mankind. Solar powered wristwatch and electric car, believe it or not, is known for 100 years now. People had figured out some form of getting four wheels to move in one direction by using electricity. So my mental construct was this, that all these Greenpeace type people only go there, and like if I had an option of driving a Reva to office versus riding a bicycle, maybe bicycle would be more comfortable. Like, who does all these things? Or very luxurious high-end kind of thing which no one can afford, kind of stuff. Again, solar electricity, wind electricity, we have heard these stories in the past. You had all these biofuel companies popular at that time in the marketplace. You had these windmill companies. Again, stories were there. Huge subsidies are given out to these companies. Even after subsidies, they sell electricity at something like 12 rupees a unit. Okay, the technical term is kilowatt hour. You might see that term in the presentations. For convenience, I'll use the term unit, which refers to kilowatt hour in terms of electricity units. So these solar and wind projects would sell electricity at 10, 11, 12 kind of thing. It's really wasting the consumer's money and taxpayers' money. So that's the mental construct I was living in for a very long time. And then I came across a video by this guy and read the book. We have screened this video last time round. and he is making some pretty startling claims. Before getting into those claims, what is he saying? Clean disruption of energy and transportation, and he says all these will be obsolete by 2030. Not too far away. We are almost in 2017. When you put such broad brush strokes, energy and transportation, it's 11 companies out of the top 30 companies by market cap in India. 11. It's not a small number. So Reliance oil refiner, natural gas producer, ONGC, oil and gas producer, Coal India, Tata Motors auto company, Maruti Suzuki. So all of these are in some way connected with energy and transportation. So you can't take it lightly. So before either agreeing with him or disagreeing with him, you have to get into what is he saying and whether that is correct or not. And not only is it important for us as investors, it's important for countries. So if what he's saying is entire Middle East will be in trouble, Russia will be in trouble, various other countries will be in trouble if what this guy is saying is correct. Also, you can't take just one point of view and build your investment thesis. So what I did was I went out and searched for people who are disagreeing with this point of view. And there are plenty of them, and good people. One person is Thomas Coward. I came across his name in a Economist article. But he is not the only one. So Bill Gates is not assuming that the problem is solved. He is still investing in various forms of renewable energy and create a competition among different technologies. There are other speakers. I've just picked on this name because it sounds good, Doubting Thomas. So that's the only reason why his picture is there, but you could easily put Bill Gates or somebody else over here. Also, I am taking help of this construct, and it's a very important construct to have whenever debating things. So different people can have different opinions, but hopefully facts are not different. If something is factually correct today, then that should be accepted by both parties, whether you are for or against any proposition. So I'll in the presentation try and separate out the two, talk about what has happened in the past, what is happening today, or in the very near future, and about the distant future. We can have differing opinions and still be friends. So there's no problem with that. So what is being said? What is Tony Seba saying? What have we heard last time round? One, he's saying solar electricity will be cheaper than fossil fuel. And here solar we can also include wind for the sake of convenience. Also he is saying that storage of electricity will take gigantic leaps and it will become cheaper, and we could store electricity, which is not possible today at a scale. Today you can store some electricity in your cell phone or in your car batteries or something like that, but at scale it's not possible today. He's saying that transportation will be largely electricity driven, electric vehicles. Internal combustion engine will be obsolete. He's also making a claim that we are at peak car today. We'll need fewer vehicles in the future, and dramatically so according to him. He's saying maybe 70, 80, 90% of the vehicles will not be on the roads. He's saying it's inevitable that coal, oil, natural gas, nuclear based energy and transportation becomes obsolete. He's saying autonomous driving will be widespread and there will be a lot of business model innovations around. So today we are asking two questions. Firstly, will it happen? So maybe some of the things will not happen at all. And if it is to happen, how much time will it take for those things to come about? I'll not be talking too much about autonomous driving. I'll also not be talking too much about business model innovation. Just briefly to get it out of the way. Autonomous driving, there are I think 5 levels of autonomous driving. So level 1, level 2, level 3, which the US regulator has put in place. So level 4 is where the entire trip can be undertaken by the car itself. There is no human intervention required. So a child can get into the car without anyone knowing driving and reach the destination. That is level 4. And before that there are level 3, 2, 1 in descending order. So level 1 is the most basic kind of thing. So today, leave aside future, today a lot of companies are already at 2, 2.5, 3 kind of levels. Meaning a driver sits in the driving seat, there is a steering wheel, there is a brake pedal, accelerator pedal, but you can disengage most of the time. You can put it on the autopilot and you just have to be there to take over if need arises. Level 4, Google or Alphabet or whatever it's called these days, that autonomous driving unit, they have driven millions of miles and hopefully they have made some progress over there. So technologically it's possible. Again, Tony Siba was talking about all those falling costs of sensors. I haven't done much work on that, but I guess that's true. So I'm not spending too much time on this, and the presentation does not depend on this coming true or not. So that's where it stands. Business model innovation is there for us to see. So again, I will not spend too much time on that. So let's get into renewable energy. Primarily solar, a bit of wind. Again, some time back, as I mentioned, my construct was this. Americans are burning a lot of coal, are burning a lot of oil per capita. So why should countries like India and China agree to restrictions on burning coal? We need to improve the economic lives of our population and become wealthy. We'll worry about environment when we become rich. But some things have changed that thinking. In the last year, we have had a few well publicized problems relating to the environment. So one was the famous Delhi smog, where the court intervened, where the Delhi government tried odd and even cars on the road. A coal plant was ordered shut down in, I think, Badarpur or some place close to Delhi. In Mumbai also we had this problem of smog about a year back. There were some fires in the dumping ground across the creek and wind would blow that to the city. So people started actually worrying about the harmful effects of pollution. That was one. And second, in the newspaper, leave aside Tony Siba's presentation, in the newspaper we started seeing numbers relating to solar energy which were unimaginable a few years back. You started seeing numbers like 5 rupees a unit, 4.5, somewhere 3. Infosys is claiming that it will generate power at 2.85 in for its own consumption, and they will meet 50% of their consumption through solar, and they are committed to go to 100% by 2018. So one started seeing all these numbers in the papers. So then the mental construct had to be challenged. Like maybe it's possible to have clean energy and cheap energy. So we'll examine where we are on that situation today. So various sources are confirming this, not just one guy, that when you generate your own electricity, it's close to the price at which your utility is giving electricity to you in about 80% of the world today or in 2017, very close now. We look at India as we go along. Also, Buffett, who does not come across as a Greenpeace type, is put in $17 billion into wind and solar already. He's bought over all these projects and they are generating electricity and he's running a profitable operation out of it. His energy company sells electricity at 5 cents a kilowatt hour, 5 cents a unit, as compared to the US national average price being 12 to 13 cents. So these are things as on date. No predictions required, current situation. Again, Berkshire has put in $230 million in BYD, currently worth about $1.35 billion. So again, BYD is some sort of a bet on electric vehicles, storage and renewables. So this is as on today. Again, as I mentioned, no predictions required for the future. Google put out this data on a net basis. They will generate as much electricity from renewables in 2017 as they are consuming in a year. So on a net basis, full renewable, and apart from being 100% on a net basis, they are also trying to match where they consume and where they generate, or time of the day of generation and consumption. This is their next step, and they are not the only ones. So this is a whole list of companies who are committed to meeting most or all of their energy needs from renewable sources. Infosys, as I mentioned, they have committed to 100% renewable energy by 2018. Let's look at the situation in Mumbai or in Maharashtra. This is the slab that I came across on the net for residential consumption. So if you are consuming only 100 units a month, this is your price. As you increase consumption, the cost increases. My personal residential bill, I pay about 8 rupees a unit today. Again, fact, no prediction required. Industrial tariff in India, Maharashtra is 8.3, Karnataka is about 7, Goa is cheaper, slightly under 5. This is the retail price. At the wholesale level, spot prices are around 2.5 rupees a unit, 2.5 to 3 rupees a unit. That's significantly cheaper than the retail price. So these ultra mega power plants, where Reliance bid for Sasan or Tata's bid for Mundra and so on, the bidding was between 2 and 3 a unit, but again they figured out that they had overbid, or there were some problems with imported Indonesian coals and some taxes, etc. So it's inching closer to 3 now, even at the wholesale ultra mega power plant kind of level. So the difference is not much between grid prices and solar. Solar is cheaper than the prices that we are paying. So if PPFAS had access to sufficient rooftop, maybe it would be cheaper to generate our own electricity. Because we are in a city and we don't have access to our own roof, we can't use that. Solar, different projects have different prices. All these are pre-transmission prices. So People like Infosys say sub 3, some rooftop projects have come in at 3 with a little bit of subsidy element. At the higher end, I don't think it's much beyond 5, so 5, 5.2 thereabouts. So this is the price structure in India. And it's a thing which is happening the world over. Just imagine Middle Eastern countries going big into solar. So Abu Dhabi, Dubai are setting up huge solar power plants. Saudi Arabia is going big into solar. Oman is big into solar, and all their desalination plants or for their electricity needs, they are going heavily into solar. And not only that, today solar is being used to run the oil rigs. So to pump out oil, they are using solar electricity. This is in Oman. They are not using natural gas, which is plenty over there. This is again today. No projections required. So this is the situation today. Now there is this famous quote pertaining to ice hockey. So a good player goes where the puck or the ball is going to go, rather than where it has been in the past. Now extending that same argument, in the last 6 years, this is Google statement but verified through various sources. In the last 6 years, cost of wind power has come down 60%. And solar power came down 80%. Now let's get into forecasting, looking at the future. So unless you believe that 2016 was the last year in which innovation happened and technology is not going to improve any further, then the current tariff can be taken as the bottom tariff. If you are on the wildly optimistic side, and if you say over the next 6 years costs will drop another 80%, then what is 5 rupees a unit becomes 1 rupee a unit in 6 years. So depending on where you stand on the spectrum, whether you think we are already at peak technological efficiency, 5 rupees is the minimum, or 1 rupee, you can make your own judgment. But technology is still improving, scale efficiencies are still coming in. I don't know what will be the path in the future, but trajectory is clearly downwards. Cost of renewable energy is coming down. That's where we stand today. This is actual implementation on ground. Again, like a Rip Van Winkle, I had seen this sector here, and when I woke up, this has already happened. In India, we are doubling installed capacity each year. Globally, it's growing at 41%, 41%. India is doubling each year. This is 11, 12, 13. This is from Mint newspaper. Mercom Capital Group is the data provider, but this chart came in the newspaper, Mint newspaper. So 2015 to 16 is this, and 17 is projects already under implementation. So again, not too much of forecasting required. It's just that you just follow the current trajectory. So Tony Seba is saying oil, coal, gas will be over by 2030. Indian government is saying we'll be at 40%. So one way or the other, this is the range in which you have to play. You can't say we will be only at 5% or 10%. You can't be at that level because government is clearly working on this today. So why are we even discussing this? Why don't we just come to a conclusion? All these are over. Let's break the session. Let's have drinks and dinner and chat. The problem is that these sources, both wind and solar, are intermittent. Meaning You get wind energy only when wind is blowing. You get solar energy only when sun is shining. If it's a cloudy day, rainy day, you don't get solar. If wind is not blowing, you don't get wind. So this is one big argument why people think that it will not be that mainstream. This is the problem cited in Thomas's document that he's prepared, and Bill Gates has mentioned this, and a lot of other people have mentioned this. And it's true. This is not a problem which has been conclusively solved as of now. And this is a good visual representation of this problem. So this is California Independent System Operator. This is something like the State Electricity Board, which we have in India. May not be a perfect equivalent, but for understanding sake, this is aggregate of Californian situation. So this top line is energy demand by time of day in 2012. This line, 12 a.m., which is midnight, 3 a.m., early morning, noon, afternoon, evening, late evening. Just look at what is happening. This used to be the demand in 2012. Now demand from the grid is steadily falling from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the reason this is happening is solar. When people are generating electricity from their own rooftops, so if Walmart has put gigantic solar panels on its roof, they don't need to draw power from the grid. They will use grid power only at night or early morning or thereabouts. Now this is a real problem. We'll see why that problem arises. And in fact, some people are saying the cure is worse than the disease. A lot of people just simply hate solar electricity, wind electricity because of this kind of demand patterns. There's no pricing in this right now. We'll come to pricing. That's a very interesting question. There's no pricing right now in this chart. This is just unit demand in terms of megawatt. This is just unit demand in megawatt net at the grid level, not at the consumption level, at the grid level. So what are the problems associated with this kind of a generation profile from renewable energies? One is that a lot of electricity currently in India, in US or a lot of other places is generated by burning coal. Now coal plants, you cannot switch on and switch off at will. If the plant is running, it will keep running for days and weeks and months probably. You can't switch it on for 1 hour, switch it off. Those kind of things are not possible, and if you try and do that too frequently, it reduces the life of the plant. The plant has to be heated to a certain level and only then it starts generating electricity. So coal-fired power plants in most cases are not suited to generate electricity on demand. They are designed to provide what is referred to as base load demand, meaning demand which will be constant through the day. Here there is nothing like a base load, because what would have been the base load here, that is being cut off by this duck kind of a chart. That's one problem. Secondly, all these ultra mega power plants which have been set up in India, or all the coal fired plants that have been set in India and abroad, they price their electricity based on a certain plant load factor, meaning we'll run at this capacity, so this much will be the capital cost per unit and this much will be the variable cost per unit, and this will be the end price for the consumer. Now if for a long time you are using renewable and part of the time only you are using fossil fuel plants, and the plant load factors go for a toss. If you had planned on running the plant for 90% of the time and you are running it only for 50% of the time, the economics are very, very different. Then you have to jack up the prices that you charge in the in the peak hours of demand. Again, to encourage renewable energy, some states in the US started what is called net metering. Now, net metering is what? A homeowner can put a rooftop solar. When generation is more than demand, he can give the units to the grid. He can sell the units to the grid. And when that person needs electricity, draw from the grid. So if you have given 100 units and if you have drawn 125 units, you are charged only for 25 units. Now that's a huge problem, because daytime everyone wants to give and at night everyone wants to receive. So what this resulted is, it resulted in huge cost savings for people who put rooftop solar, and it jacked up the price for everybody else. And this was a big regulatory fight between Buffett owned utility and Solar City, where Elon Musk is the chairman. So that was the issue. Also at the retail level, or in some cases even for wholesale consumers, there is no time of day metering concept. So Mehul asked this question, what is surge pricing and all that. Currently our electricity bills just give you units consumed multiplied by price. It's like the Kali Pili taxi that we have. Uniform prices across the day. Whereas in a renewable energy world, there's a huge difference between peak demand price and the low demand price. So already we have had situations in Germany, for example, where electricity is given away free, or I read somewhere negative pricing. You get paid to consume because there's so much of renewable electricity, and sometimes this demand is so much that you have to pay peak pricing. Our grid, our meters are not geared to implement any of that. So the way electricity is being generated today by all these renewable players, it's good for the consumers. Industries will put all these on the rooftop, but for utilities it's a nightmare, as increasingly more and more renewable energy comes into play. So what do you do? It's a huge problem. I hope everyone is clear on the nature of the problem. One solution, as Mehul asked the question, what's the surge pricing? So if you are using Uber, you see what price is there. If the price is too high and it's not urgent, you will say, I'll go later, I don't want to go now, I'm just going shopping, I'll go maybe an hour later. So one solution is implementing time of day metering, and these are actual numbers. I think Arizona, at the bottom, price of 5 cents per unit per kilowatt hour, at peak 49 cents a kilowatt hour. So a factor of 10 difference. Again, some people have suggested that if you improve the grid, to some extent you can solve this problem, and once you have a mix of wind and solar. So let's say if grid is across the continental Europe or across United States, then sunrise happens first someplace, sun has not come up yet elsewhere, you can transport electricity from one region to the other, and you can even out some differences. Not all, but to some extent. So demand response is one. If you implement time of day metering, let's say industrial consumers will produce only when power is cheap, otherwise they'll not consume. Grid connectivity, mix of wind and solar is another thing. But the biggest solution which people are trying to crack is large scale electricity storage. This is something which Tony Seba says is going to be solved pretty quickly or sometime in the near future. If you don't agree with that, then you can assume that the world will not change too much, or it will be only headaches for the utility grid, but essentially we'll keep burning fossil fuel. This is one big question mark, the storage question. So let's come to storage. This is my first cell phone that I had sometime in 2000, year 2000 I think, Nokia 5110. This is my current one, much thinner as compared to this, and stores more electricity, more charge. So I guess batteries are improving. Again, this is fact, no forecasting involved here. 2010 cost of battery was $1,000 per kilowatt hour. 2016, which is today, that cost is in some form of a market. This is not easily tradable, so only it's a B2B business. You don't have retail pricing of lithium ion batteries. It usually comes as part of your phone or as part of your electric car, but most estimates put it in this range. Even Thomas's paper talks about this price. So from 1000 to let's say 330, it's a 67% price reduction over 6 years. Some people say that when GM and Tesla are launching their new cars, they've already tied up, or their new factories will be able to provide them batteries at this price. Some people agree with this, some people don't. I don't have a clear-cut answer to that, but according to some people, we are already close to $200 per kilowatt hour. So given the rapid reduction in cost of batteries, it's plausible that we could use batteries for large scale storage. And there is a consultant's paper which was also referred to in Tony Seba's presentation, where he said that where the power generator in Texas conducted a study saying at what price per kilowatt hour would we be able to store electricity at a large scale. They had mentioned a cost of $350 a kilowatt hour. We are already there or below that. On ground, we haven't seen too much of utility level storage yet. But lithium ion is not the only game in town. There are some very, very low tech storage solutions that people have come across. It just requires some bit of ingenuity. What they do is, let's say there is a hill and there's a lake on top of the hill and there's a water body at a lower level. When electricity is plentiful, they'll pump water from the lower water body to the upper water body, and at night that same water they'll pass through turbines and generate electricity and put it back in the grid. So it's not as efficient as lithium ion, but very cost effective. It doesn't require much, right? Let's say you have a Bhakra Nangal dam, that water has flown down, you pump that water back up into the dam and then at night again run the turbine. So that is one thing which has been tried out. In fact, I think some islands in Europe have already implemented this and have gone completely renewable, 100% renewable. No fossil fuel required at all. There are solar power plants not using the photovoltaic technology, which use solar energy to heat up some chemicals. That those chemicals retain the heat, and when you want electricity, they discharge heat and generate electricity. Again, these are operating plants. Somewhere, some place in Spain already has this. So this solar plant can generate electricity 24/7. At what price, I don't know, but it's possible. And apart from lithium ion, people are working on different technologies also to store electricity. So this part not proven today, but plausible. I wouldn't completely write off this possibility. Again, if you are in the camp that all technological improvement has already happened, then we are at 200 or 330, wherever the current cost is. But if you think that technology will keep improving, people are saying we could go to 100, go to 50, wherever in the years to come. In 6 years, we have seen a 67% improvement. If we improve 67% further in next 6 years, we don't know where we will be. So this is a slide from Tony Seba's presentation. I tried looking at the numbers, couldn't make too much sense of it, because in batteries you have to factor in the wear and tear of the battery. Replacement cycle is people say anywhere between 5 and 10 years. So I am not so sure how these numbers have come about, but his calculations show large scale storage is possible. Whether you agree with this slide or not, one thing is clear. At extremes, it makes a lot of sense. So if you could buy electricity at 5 cents and sell it at 49 cents, then even at today's price, some amount of arbitrage is possible. So at the margin, surely storage will come into play. Whether it will completely even out that graph in the future or not is debatable. Okay, now the naysayers, the doubting Thomases have this question. You are comparing solar 5 years from now, storage 5 years from now, to coal, oil and gas today. But what is to say that coal, oil and gas will not improve in 5 years in terms of efficiencies? And one example given is in 2007 we were seeing oil at $140 a barrel and so on, and that crashed, and again due to hydraulic fracking, huge amounts of natural gas came into the market. So if there were to be a fall in oil prices, gas prices, coal prices, then maybe some of these equations will have to be reworked. That is argument of some of the opponents. Tony Seba says this one line. He says PV cells, solar, lithium ion batteries are technologies. Technology only has a one-way path. Technology improves and cuts cost. Whereas extractive resources, you have to continuously keep finding more and more. So you have to keep drilling more and more wells, and the cost curves don't improve that dramatically in that space. So you can choose to believe either one of them, but again, my view is that it's plausible that fossil fuel could become uncompetitive in the days to come. Depends on how the path goes, that's in the future. So So now we come to electric vehicles. Okay, before I start, I'll be using Tesla as an example, but doesn't mean I'm a fan of Tesla as a stock to own. I'm not a big fan of buying loss-making companies and leveraged balance sheets. Tesla has flirted with bankruptcy once, but Elon Musk is a guy to watch. You should track him closely. You should see what he's doing. I'm not such a big fan of the stock, so don't expect me to buy the stock anytime soon. And Elon Musk is a person who Charlie Munger has described as a genius, and he says, I don't use the word lightly, but Charlie Munger and Elon Musk had gone out for lunch, and Charlie Munger kept listing the ways in which Tesla would fail. The company would go bankrupt. And another sentence that Charlie Munger uses for Elon Musk is that he's brilliant, he's a genius, but he's probably a guy with 190 IQ who thinks he is 250 IQ.
Yes, and he doesn't like it.
So that's the history behind the two guys. Berkshire and Munger obviously have investment in a competitor, not direct competitor, but BYD, which also is in electric vehicles, batteries and all. So irrespective of which guy succeeds, change could be coming. We are more interested in the change rather than who actually ends up winning the market share game or profitability game. So I'll be using Tesla examples in this presentation. So this car is Model S. It sells for about starting price of about 70,000 US dollars, going up to north of 100,000 US dollars. So it's in the league of Mercedes S-Class or BMW 7 Series and those kind of cars. Again, these are actual numbers, no forecasting required. In 2015, out of total luxury sedan sales of 99,000 odd vehicles, 25,000 were Model S. So it had 25% market share in that category. And these are not people who are the Greenpeace types or who worry about petrol price. If you are buying a $70,000 or $100,000 car, you don't worry about what is the price per gallon. This was 2015, 25% market share, right? And it grew 51% over the previous year. And it's beating Audi 7, Audi 8, BMW 6-7, Mercedes S-Class, CLS Class, Porsche. This is Q3 2016.
Sorry, a lot of these are pre-bookings, right? For like 3-4 years.
Deliveries. I'll come to the booking number in a bit. These are sales. Q3 2016, 9,000 out of 28,000. It's gained market share, right? Again, 60% growth. So we are seeing big growth in BMW, but that's due to a new model launch, etc. There is some base effect over here. So broadly, for rich people, it's prestigious to own a Model S. And what is seen in US also applies to Europe. In Europe, it's more of a Nordic country kind of phenomenon. It's not so successful in Germany. Again, part of the sales could be driven by a small element of subsidy, that about $7,500 subsidy is there for electric car buyers. So maybe that would play some role in the sales figures. But again, I guess someone who buys a $100,000 car is not going to be that swayed by $7,500 price difference. This is what they have announced, Model 3. They have announced a price of 35,000 and still it looks like a car that James Bond would drive. All they have done is they rented out a hall, Elon Musk came on stage, those 3 cars came on stage, and that's it. That's what has been done so far. And they got these many reservations just to stand in the queue. And to stand in the queue, you have to pay $1,000 each. So you have $373 million which Tesla has received from the public. The point is not whether Tesla will be able to deliver it end of 2017 as they are claiming, or end of 2018, or sometimes early 2019. All I am trying to prove here is that customer acceptance is there for electric vehicles. Rich people want to own it, middle level buyers want to own it, so people who would drive a Accord or a Corolla or a Octavia, they would be wanting to buy this car. Nissan Leaf, which is an electric car, is selling in the US for about $35,000-$40,000. Chevrolet has announced a Chevy Bolt, which is coming either early 2017 or mid 2017, 3 to 6 months, I guess. Again, $37,500. Good enough mileage and good enough range, so that range anxiety is not there. What I am saying is that customer acceptance is there, price points are matching those of petrol diesel cars, and these are far cheaper to run because electricity is far cheaper. So a full tank equivalent of these cars would be 500-600 rupees as compared to your petrol where you put in 3,500 rupees kind of thing. Far cheaper to run, and also maintenance is very less because there's no engine. There's a battery and there's a motor. It's almost like your electric fan at home. How many times have you got your electric fan serviced or maintained? So there's no engine oil, there's no spark plug, there's no carburetor, there's no catalytic converter. Like the number of moving parts are very, very less. So again, seems to be happening. How quickly we don't know, but the technology is there, it's proven. Those cars are on road, so Model S's are on road. People have driven them for a while and given good satisfaction reports. This one, no one has test driven. I don't think consumers have had a chance to test drive it, the Model 3. So this is as far as our discussion today goes. A lot of people, especially environmentalists, say that solar power, wind power, electric vehicles will not solve climate change problem. And one example that someone gave was that you may save some petrol by driving an electric vehicle, but if you spend that money into taking one long distance flight, all your savings is wiped out. So he also gave an example of LED bulbs which save electricity per unit of light, but because people are saving electricity, they put far more LED bulbs than they were required, and they keep them on through the night outside in their compound and all that. So essentially we are wasteful creatures and we need to guard against that. So it's not a solution for climate change, but it's things are changing. So again, this question is unresolved. I don't have a very strong view on this. Someone like Buffett is saying that you will keep getting electricity from the grid. You pay your monthly bill to the grid. At our end, we'll replace out coal by wind and solar and whatever. You don't worry about which source of energy. You consume electricity the way you have been using. People like Tony Seba, Elon Musk, they say put rooftop solar, put a power wall, or have batteries in your home, or store electricity in your car, two-way electricity and all that. I don't know whether it will be utility driven or a distributed form of energy market. We'll see how things pan out. All these changes are coming, probably. One can't rule them out. So how much time is left? Oh, 2030 is far away. 13 years. Meantime, I can buy and sell Tata Motors every 3 months. Why worry about 2030? It's long away, right? I've just put a price chart. This is price chart of MTNL. Peak of 300 sometime in 95-96. Cell phones came somewhere around here. 16 rupees per minute incoming as well as outgoing call. MTNL would charge 1 rupee for 3 minutes, and if you had an analog phone, 1 rupee for the call, irrespective of the time duration. Cell phones did not pick up at all for the first 5 years. So we'll see in the next chart the subscriber growth. So till 2000 we had only about 31 lakh cell phone subscribers, and that went up to almost 90 crores in 10 years. So 95 was when cell phones came in. You never had a sustainable price over here. Essentially the trajectory has been down. You could maybe trade it somewhere. You could buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it. Trading opportunities were there, but broadly, if people see a big change coming, and people already start going out of the technology which is declined, and MTNL still exists today. So we still have our landlines. So it's not that all petrol pumps will shut down. The old petrol cars, diesel cars will still need to be fueled, but market just moves away. Whether it's market cap, borrowing costs, in various forms, people start looking forward. The thing which is going out of fashion does not remain around for long. These are the companies. Now, these companies will still be around by 2030. Some of them will thrive on change, some will adopt and hang in there, some will decline probably. Question is, are they doing something for this change, or do you see signs of them gearing for a change which probably could come? I read a lot about Nissan's efforts in electric cars. I read about BMW and Mercedes, Chevrolet we have discussed. Suzuki, what is the electric car plan? I don't know. Jaguar Land Rover, they have said they are testing something and pilot is going on and all, but essentially these people make 1 or 2 cars for the auto shows. After that we don't know what's really happening behind. So maybe they are working in secret and They haven't communicated it out, but one needs to be wary when 11 of the 30 companies are in this space. I'll just end with a video clip.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
So for me it was a rude awakening. I was always thinking that it's something for the Greenpeace types. After reading some bit on this, I think there's a real risk to some of these legacy players. Let's see how it pans out. I don't have any investments in solar PV companies, electric car companies, etc. As is usually the case, typically it's easier avoiding the losers rather than picking the winners. So we've seen cellular companies, even if you knew this is going to happen, you could have got it wrong. You could have bought Tata Teleservices and not had that great a run, or you could have bought Arcom and not have had a great run even when subscriber growth was happening. So it scares me more than excites me. Thank you. That's all that I have. We'll be happy to take questions.
Hello. Yeah. So my question was actually relating your talk to airlines, the airline industry, and also Monish Pabrai bought Southwest Airlines, Buffett's bought 3 airlines, and I think they're also making a call on oil prices for the long term. And I think based on the talk, it sort of seems that could be a possible case. So what is your opinion on that, and sort of relating that to the Indian airlines? Like, do you see an inflection point for the entire airline industry?
So I don't think anyone has figured out how to run aircraft on renewable energy. You had that one experiment where one aircraft flew around the globe, but that was again like a Reva car. It was not something which was practical. Yeah, if this were to happen, oil will be plenty and cheap. Don't have much view beyond that. I follow Pabrai on Twitter, and he was asked about Indian airlines, about Indigo. So his answer was, and I haven't checked any of this, his answer was that Southwest was trading at 6 times earnings or somewhere thereabouts. Let me know when Indigo trades at that level. That was his answer. I don't have much knowledge on Southwest or Indigo. Indigo we had spoken about some time back, so maybe oil will be plenty and cheap if this were to play out, but don't have any strong views on that.
You see, as far as
Yeah, please go ahead.
as far as storage is concerned, the big future is really hydrogen, where your solar power is converted into hydrogen from water, and then you have fuel cells which convert the power into the hydrogen into power at night. So do you have you done any work on the study on that? Because I believe a breakthrough on that can make a big advantage of having solar power 24 hours.
So, I am not an engineer by training, and lot of people are doing work on this. All I do is read secondary stuff. People are trying to do this hydrogen fuel cell technology. People are also trying to convert solar energy to chemical energy. They are trying to convert energy in sunlight to something like synthetic petrol or something equivalent. So various things are being tried. If you have seen the video of Tony Seba, he says that I am not saying that lithium ion will win. I am saying just that if someone has to win against lithium ion, it has to beat this curve, because lithium ion is already doing this. If you have something better, you have to do it more efficiently and cheaper. Otherwise, you don't have a winning proposition. So, who knows which technology will win? A lot of people are trying various approaches, and people like Bill Gates, Vinod Khosla, all these people, Jack Ma, all these people have set up a fund to invest in these startups for renewable energy. Let's see what comes out of it.
You know, it's quite interesting. So if all these cars and all the automobile sector is going to become electric in the next decade or so, wouldn't there be a humongous cost of destroying the existing automobiles? And I don't know if that would nullify the whole effect. I don't know if there is any study or any observation on that. Because then it's not only automobiles in terms of passenger cars. I think everything virtually will start becoming electric over a period of time. But then the cost of destroying everything that we have might actually also be quite large. Any study on that? Observations?
So if you already own a internal combustion engine vehicle, let's say you have bought it 3 months back, you are not going to junk that today just because of a electric car coming in. You will run it for its useful life. It's just that the next car that you buy will probably be an electric car. So it's not that overnight ICE cars will go away. It's just that incrementally people will stop buying them. It's something like that. Recently, The Economist had a full section on this. The bigger worry is all the lending which has been done to automobile manufacturers, electricity utilities, oil companies, coal companies. What happens to those? That lending. So a lot of people are worried about NPS going up or a lot of these bonds defaulting. So who knows how fast this will happen and what will be the impact. If it happens slower than what is being said, people will have more time to adopt. If it happens at a rapid pace, then there will be pain for some people.
Rajeev, our country is one of the few lucky countries around the globe who is blessed with 365 days of sunlight around the year. So our Prime Minister, when he was heading Gujarat as a Chief Minister, I think gave a lot of emphasis on solar energy, and they have set up a lot of good units in Gujarat also. So have you seen any provisions in the budget so far? Because what's happening is people like Sunita Narayan has been taken very seriously because of what has been happening with Delhi. So do you think in the upcoming budgets, or has there been any provisions in the budget as far as the encouragement or something like to do with these investments in this particular sectors?
You saw this slide, right? This is India. We are growing our installed base 100% a year as compared to 40% a year globally. So this year, this particular year, 2016, a lot of incentives tapered off in China and in the US. So China and US probably will see a flat year or a slight degrowth here, whereas India is a bright spot currently globally in terms of capacity coming up. So whether capacity is in the private sector or public sector or joint sector, we are growing at a very fast clip, and we have been actually increasing the targets of achieving a renewable energy share. What that does to the grid is a separate matter. Actually, very soon the problem will be that during the daytime, lot of energy is generated, but SEBs don't buy them and don't pay for it. You could see financial viability problem either for solar guys or for thermal guys or probably for both. So Capacity is coming up. That's not the worrying part. Worrying part is who will pay for it.
Hi, you've covered mainly solar. However, the initial chart that you showed, with Google and a bunch of other guys who are trying to become 100% renewable, majority of their energy installed base or expected or projected or whatever that chart was wind. So why focus solely on solar?
The solar cost curve is coming down very rapidly. That is one. So wind came down by 60%, solar came down by 80%. That number is there. Solar can be done at a rooftop scale versus wind. You typically require those mountainous or there are some efforts going on high altitude wind. So for distributed energy, solar is more amenable, and currently globally the world over lot of developments are happening in solar rather than in wind. The biggest advantage wind has over solar is it can generate at night. So that's why people are using it as a mix. I don't think either one will go away. So even if solar succeeds, there will be a certain amount of wind development which will keep happening. But the pace of increase in global capacity in terms of price reductions, the bulk of it is in solar.
And in terms of viability of between wind and solar?
Both have their pluses and minuses. It is location specific also. So in a country with less sunlight and lot of wind will be more viable. In a place which is not that windy but has a lot of sunshine, solar will be more viable. So it varies from project to project.
So there's viability on two fronts, I guess, right? So one is the absolute price per unit, right? And the second is, from the guys that are actually funding it. So the IRR generated for them, right? So in an Indian context, you see wind, generating an IRR for the investor at maybe about, say, around 20%, right? Versus solar at about 12%.
It would vary very significantly from project to project.
Sure,
so
but
if you have set up the same windmill that you set up in one location will generate a particular IRR, in a different location it will generate a very different IRR. Also month to month, year to year. So last year your windmill generated X amount of IRR. This year it could be very different. So lot of it depends on nature and
but on a blended basis. I mean, I've done some work on this sector, right? And I one of the questions I still, scratch my head about is if the gap in IRRs to investors is incrementally that large, where you have a 4 to 5% IRR gap for an investor, why is there so much focus, so much emphasis, and so many dollars going into solar versus generating wind, which also has, a fair amount of runway?
I have no argument in this. If someone is bullish on wind, so be it. I am more worried about RE versus fossil fuel and the traditional thing, and is it a threat? If someone chooses to set up a windmill versus set up a solar park, so be it.
Rajeev, one observation when you saw the adoption of cell phone technology, you saw the supporting infrastructure, also investments going in there. So massive amount of investment in cell phone towers and things like that. So two questions. One is, how important is the supporting infrastructure if you want mass adoption of electric vehicles? Is storage technology going to be advanced enough that we don't even need supporting infrastructure, or we need supporting infrastructure, and how much investments are happening in that area or need to happen in that area? So if you go back to one of your curves, you had like, this is where cell phone adoption was, but there would be a similar curve saying this is how much supporting infrastructure investments happen.
The answer to this question, firstly, for the answer to come about, firstly we'll have to come to a conclusion whether the new world will be one where renewable energy replaces fossil at the utility level, or are we going towards distributed grid? So distributed is more internet like instead of one central server and many nodes, you have various things performing various functions, in which case things are very different. So electric cars power the house, again get charged from solar panels and those kind of things, versus the traditional utility model. Universally, I think one thing is recognized is lot of investments will be required in the grid infrastructure for integrating renewables, some sort of storage, some sort of time of day metering, those kind of things. So I think grid is where infrastructure will be required, but otherwise we've been using electricity for a very long time. So your home light or your washing machine, vacuum cleaner, those are already geared to use electricity from any source. So whether it's coming from the utility or from your roof, I don't know whether if you put a power wall and a rooftop, whether you need much more.
I think my question is more geared towards the equivalent of a gas station, right? You know, when I'm driving my regular car, I'm average driving in the US is close to 12,000 miles. If I add up the commute to work and back home is not 12,000 miles. So people are doing long range driving. So you need the supporting gas station equivalent.
Sure.
Is that needed if storage, well, I can store not 200 miles, 1,000 miles, then I definitely don't need it. But if I only can store 200, 300, 400 miles, then that supporting infrastructure needs to exist.
Sure. So let's split this into two parts. One is the daily commute and one is the intercity or interstate kind of driving. Daily commute, we already have the infrastructure, which is the wall socket. At night you plug in, or you are at work, you plug in your work parking lot and you are on. So doesn't require much else, and you don't care about whether it gets charged in 40 minutes or it takes 5 hours to charge. Overnight it doesn't matter to you. And in any case, a full battery capacity of a car, which is if you are saying 220 mile range or 230 mile range, it will probably last you through the week. So you will never run out of juice in your daily commute. So the charging question comes only when you are doing intercity, interstate. In that situation, I think either something like this supercharger network of Tesla or some kind of battery as a service or battery swapping stations would be required, because there the time spent on charging becomes very critical. You can't expect a driver to wait for 3-4 hours before driving the car again. 30 minutes, 40 minutes is fine. So in that case you would require something like a supercharger station. I guess in the US and parts of Europe that is already there. Maybe the industry needs to converge to some sort of standard, meaning the same supercharger station works for Nissan Leaf as well as Chevy Bolt as well as Tesla, rather than each company trying to create its own plug. So Apple has this notorious thing where they have their own connectors. Hopefully that doesn't flow through into the EV space. Otherwise you will need a electric station for each brand of cars. So I think, but guys will converge on some sort of standards for charging.
Yeah, I have mainly 2 points. One is observation. Now we are here talking mainly about commercial, not commercial actually, passenger cars and all those things, right? But other areas commercial, like big transportation, all those things. Still trucks, which is more inefficient, or maybe public transportation which use trains, etc. we haven't spoke about. I think there will be some still issue because there was big consumers.
This company BYD is already selling electric buses and all of that. Actually, that's a simpler problem to solve because they don't go across cities. Local bus will just go around in that city and
yes, local bus, local city buses can maybe but I was talking more about long distance hauls, where you have to refuel.
What applies to cars would apply to heavier vehicles also.
Okay, the same efficiency can be drawn in the heavy because the amount of weight, square meter weight in the car as versus the commercial,
it is
maybe.
It is doable.
Okay, that's one. Second, is it really these companies which may BYD as Tesla making money? Because that is the end of the right. I can, for example, big stomach like Warren, or they can hold on money for a long decade, for example, right? But question is, does that much amount will be pumped in, wait for so long to become successful and get return, right? I understand with good faith maybe Ghosla and other people came together, Bill Gates, for fund, etc. But there's some limitation, right? How much they can collect it, right? Is there any making these companies are making money, and what's the economic sense for this?
So BYD is not losing money in that sense. It's not like Tesla, Chevrolet, Nissan. So General Motors, Nissan, all these companies are in it for profit. Even Tesla is in it for profit eventually. What happens is when you are doing your initial market seeding, expenses would be at a higher level. So without getting too much into detail into Tesla per se, so maybe you will see Tesla burning out, who knows. But is electric vehicle financially viable proposition? I don't think it's a problem. So just to do broad numbers, one electric car for a higher range would require between a battery capacity between 60 kilowatt hours to 85 kilowatt hours, which is Model S, Tesla Model S. Some of these other cars, let's say Nissan Leaf or some of the plug-in hybrids, can have battery capacity as low as 20 kilowatt hour, 30 kilowatt hour, 40 kilowatt hour. We already know battery prices. So take $330 per kilowatt hour, multiply by 60, let's say 330 multiplied by 60, that is the battery cost. Remaining is the vehicle cost. So numbers add up. It's not that these people are into charity and something which costs $200,000 to make, they are selling for $70,000. No, that's not the case. Hard-nosed auto companies, BMWs, Mercedes, they are coming out with their versions of electric cars for a profit, not out of any social cause.
Hello, I'm Shal. I worked in solar and wind, for a fund. We tried to invest in India and we did not end up investing because of inadequate returns. But I just wanted to make some observations based on the discussions. Maybe it will add to the discussion. So first is all these numbers we are looking at in solar. Solar mission started in 2010. And initially they wanted to give a feed-in tariff, attractive feed-in tariff of about 18 rupees per kilowatt hour. But from the beginning they decided against it and they started reverse auctions. So most of the capacity being added is through reverse auctions, which is the competitive bidding, and it's mostly private sector. There are very few PSUs investing. So there is no government subsidy involved in solar. So in spite of no subsidy and very competitive bidding, and my calculation is people are making between 12 to 14% IRR, that's all. In spite of all that, this kind of capacity is coming up, and a relevant, if you look at wind energy compared to solar in India, wind even today is feed-in tariff. So states have fixed in, and obviously the wind energy producers have lobbied to have very attractive tariffs in most states, and I'm hearing that is going to go, and wind energy also may switch to reverse auctions. So then I am not very sure whether wind energy will be able to compete with solar. The other problem in India with wind is that most of the wind energy generation happens between let's say May to October. These are the monsoon month, and the wind speed and wind direction is correct at during this, and it happens mostly the windy states are in the west coast and the south coast of India, so it's not everywhere. And also we have to remember that wind generation is mostly a mechanical equipment. It's a huge mechanical equipment. So there is a limit how much cost reduction you can do in that compared to solar, where solar cells are silicon wafers and all, and you can do much more innovations to improve the efficiency. There is another relevant fact we have to see is in terms of, when we look at the 18 megawatt installation, by the way, Modi came and he raised the target installation by 2022 to 100 gigawatts, so 100,000 megawatts. So it looked unbelievable at that time, but it looks like it's possible to achieve it now. Kind of annual installations we have achieved. So we have to just remember that our total consumption as of now in India is about 250 gigawatts, and when we look at solar 18 gigawatts, we produce solar as a PLF of only 20% odd. So actual generation is about 3 gigawatts. So we are still small, but obviously the rapid pace of installation is going to do disruptions. And finally, regarding the electric car discussion, we have been talking a lot about Tesla. Last year I was in Germany and I visited a Volkswagen facility. They have been working on electric cars. They had several models on display, and the cheapest, they have a Golf equivalent which they have designed as electric vehicle, and they hope to retail it around $18,000 or something. And obviously there is nothing proprietary about the technology of producing an electric car. All the car manufacturers can easily do it. It's only the mindset, and I think they have all realized that they need to produce electric cars. And I looked at the inside of the bonnet of a electric car. It is actually far simpler than a IC engine car. So it's just a motor, and the bottom of the car is a battery, and they keep it low to lower the center of gravity. And it's not difficult to produce an electric car. So most of the car manufacturers may switch to electric cars, and they'll probably have to switch.
So is it just a small point, is it easy or not? When we look at it, it looks very simple. So there's a biography of Elon Musk by I think Ashley Vance, that describes how they went about actually creating the first Roadster and Model S and all that. And even there are documentaries on YouTube which talk about the journey of General Motors, right from EV1 to the Bolt kind of thing. So although technology is there, anyone can copy it, but it's not just a question of pulling out the engine and putting in
I agree. What I'm saying is that innovation would have been challenging at that time, because he was doing something path breaking, and the other guys were stuck in their old ways, and they didn't put enough effort to disrupt the thing. But once it has been disrupted, and once Elon has shown the way, it's not that difficult in my view. So some may be better at it, and others may be worse in terms of quality, etc. But it's like putting a motor and a battery in a car, and rest of the car will be more or less same. The engine and the fuel injection and the axle and all those things will change, but the body of the car, the seats, some of it will remain. So for a company like Volkswagen, BMW, Merck, they all can adapt. They can So what I mean is there will be a lot of producers, and if they can get a good, they can make cheaper battery, they will all go for it. So we'll see more and more cars on the road, I think.
Sure. Thanks. Great. We have overshot quite a bit this time, so we'll wind up here and let's continue the discussion over dinner. Next FOF will be on 19th of Jan.
Whenever things got rough, I always remember what my father used to say.
Running a business does test a man, my son. There are ups and downs, glorious highs, and sometimes a low that leaves you feeling defeated.
The character of a man and the character of a business are not very different, are they?
Yes. But when the chips are down, we must stand up, dust ourselves off, and motor on.
Volatility. It's a funny thing. It makes you question yourself and wonder if you've made all the right decisions.
Sure, you can question some of your decisions, but stay steadfast on your goals.
Dad always said, there are no shortcuts and no quick profits.
There are no free lunches, are there? There is only one
right way.
At PPFAS, we think like Rahul and his father. That volatility is a fact of running a business. And buying equity shares is like owning a part of that business. We use value investing principles to manage your money. This means we invest in the right businesses at reasonable prices and for a longer term.
PPFAS Mutual Fund. There's only one right way.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.